So what we're first going to look at is some of the new items in 7.1. There's quite a number of things, a number of bugs and fixes, but also some new tools, and we're going to go through that first. So we're going to do the sneak peek at 7.1 first. So let's minimize this, and we'll come into the sneak peek. So what I want to show you first of all is just a couple exciting tools. I think they're exciting, mainly because I kind of pushed for them. But I like these tools, and we're going to look at this guy here. And this is 7.1 I'm running. I'm running in 2018. The 7.1 will be available in 2015, 16, and 17 as well. So it's all going to work on different versions of Inventor. So in this tool here, I have a new tool called Select and Assemble Model Containing Bolt Circle Features. So if I highlight this button and I highlight my piece and highlight my piece I want to go to, it mates that for me. And now it has a mate on here. So what I'm doing, I'm mating that bus component to the insulator. Now I don't have to just stop there. I can also connect from my insulator to my work piece here. And now I have them all attached. Now if the holes don't line up, it will only show one attachment point. So we're still working out on this, and I was surprised by what we just saw there. So it is attached here solidly, and we're working on that as well. I'm going through a lot of the bugs and fixes and looking at the new tools as well and feeding back. So I really think the 7.1 will be released in September and early September, and we're really working hard to get it out. But I really like some of these tools, especially this tool of bringing a part in. The other part of the tool also brings in, I can browse to a fitting, and if I come into a fitting here, where is that fitting? Oh, I know, I'll do this. Let's copy this guy. Copy, paste, and then I can go grab him as well. So we can browse to a fitting and also mate to a fitting. So that's one new tool that we've added. Another tool that we've added that has been asked for is the integral web bus tools. So I'm going to place one of these now. I'm going to come to my above grade tools. I'm going to come up to my settings. And one thing new in the settings as well is that when I come into the bus, we have the integral web bus. So we have a library of those. And of course, that can be customized. And we'll talk about that customization later today. But in the meantime, I'm going to place this 4x4 bus. As well as you can see, pass-through overhangs, start and end have been added in here too. So I can actually add in a number here for each of these. And it can be different numbers. And I'm going to save that. Now I'm going to place in that integral web. And you can see we have a new item on the bottom of our pull-down menu. I can pick my two surfaces. And with that, that web is added. So what it is, you can see with my settings as being longer on one side than the other and a 12-inch overhang. But also it has this new bus web design. It's a little bit beefier and stronger, and it can do longer spans than a round bus. So we can put that bus in there. Also, we can do that same tool, of course, if we are setting it up. Let's say we come back up to our settings, and we always want to see a negative number. So let's put a negative 5 inches in here, and we'll save it. And I'm going to check my settings again. Bus. Let's go 3.5-inch bus. Save. And we can place that in here as well. So if I come in here, boom, boom, you can see how I'm past my bus point here, and I'm short over here as what I was asking for the settings to do. So what that's really nice to do is to do when we have expansion joints in our busing, or spheres and lock points and static points. So it's really nice to be able to have that type of tool to be able to change that type of thing. So the next step, I want to go back into the placing of the bolted assemblies. So let's see what else the bolted assemblies will do. So we have our pieces here, and I have a group of pieces, and what we can do is add different bolted assemblies. So I'm going to grab this guy here, and I'm going to place him. So we have this tool, we can place this, and I'm going to pick this guy here. And you can see how it's added on. And now let's look at what the constraints are. The constraints is a mate face-to-face, and it's a tangent constraints. So what we can also do is place, I believe this guy works well with this one, on the slotted type of arrays here. So we can place different type of things on different items. If we place the wrong one, and I showed that a little bit earlier, if I place this one on this one, which is too small, it's not going to place it correctly. So we're working out whether we want to use a warning window to say, hey, that's the wrong size. Usually it's pretty obvious that it doesn't fit, but when it does fit, it fits quite fine. So this is a 3-inch bolt circle. This is a different bolt circle. So we can go on like that. So that is the types of fittings we can add. So if I were to add this guy, let's copy that guy and paste him over here. And now I can place this guy to this surface here, and it's the wrong size. If I place this guy to the surface, it is the right size. So this size is fitting that size. This one is obviously, it's not fitting. So I think what we need is a window to pop up, but if you guys give me feedback, if this is obvious enough, it is obvious that that doesn't fit. So we can go from there. So those are the 2 key points that I really like in the new 7.1. There's a number of things that we're doing, but let's continue with the these fittings. And in the attachment, this is the attachment that I have placed in the handouts in the GoToMeeting here. So here we are. We're talking about the handout here in the GoToMeeting, and I'm going to look at what we're doing down here. And this is where we're at with placing these fittings, insulators and fittings. So we're able to put on a slotted fitting, we're able to put on hold fittings or long slot radial fittings. We're able to put this together. We are able to put slot to a circle. We haven't yet got the slot to a slot yet. We're still working on that issue, but for the most part, this is the most common one, is a group of holes like this. This is what I see. I don't see too many radials. I see a lot of slots to holes. I don't see too many slots to slots. So this is what we're looking at here. One thing with the slots is that all the slots need to be a radial fitting right now. And I've spoken with Sefcor, and the slots that they show in their parts, these are radial slots. So let's look at what am I talking about when I'm talking about a radial slot. So we come in here. This is still being updated. This is what I'm talking about, a radial slot here. So what we need to do is have our slots as a radial slot. That's what the actual slot is in the Sefcor fitting. That's the actual slot I'm seeing when it's on a any purchase part that we're putting slots in. I need feedback from you guys if your company is putting slots in, and if they're all straight slots or arc slots. I guess I should call it arc slot would be the proper name. If we're going to call it arc slots, or if you're just putting a straight slot in there. The other thing that we're looking at for this is right now, and this is still being a little bit worked out, is that you need a work plane called bolt circle face. If you have that plane and you have a bolt circle on that plane, the software is going to look for that plane and the bolt circle on that plane first. And that's what it's going to attach to. If it doesn't have that plane, it will look on the XY plane. So if we come back to some of these parts here, and let's look at this guy here. You can see down here, I don't have a bolt circle face in here, but it does mount fine to its right size because my planes, because I'm following the substation design model strategy, I'm following that and I'm placing my plane, my XY plane on the bottom. And that's what a good practice is. But if you don't do that, you can still place it up here and have a bolt circle face. So I'm not sure on this one. He's got the XY plane and the bolt circle face in there, and that's fine. But for a fitting like this one, if we look at that arrangement, the bolt circle face, but the XY plane is a little bit high because of the, oh, that's a different one. I was going to say that on this one here, the XY plane was through the bus center, but in this case it isn't. So it doesn't matter if your bolt circle is on the XY plane or if your bolt circle work plane, bolt circle face work plane is on the XY plane, it will fit in. So that's what we're doing here. So if I come in here and the typical object would be copy, paste, and then we can take this and attach them. What the other tool is allows you to browse to find that fitting and bring it in, just like we do with the other fittings. So that's what we're working on with the 7.1 update. Again, at the end, I'll take some questions and we'll go through there. The other items in the 7.1 update, and we talked about the integral bus. We have this working as well. We have a number of bugs and fixes. So we're going through here, and I need to spend a little bit more time in testing and check this stuff out. But, you know, some things like the ground grid trench parts are always placed on the XY plane. It would be nice to be able to put your grounding and trench on a plane that you pick. So we're working that out. It has been working, and I had some trouble with it this morning, so I didn't want to show it. So we'll get these bugs fixed for the other bugs. Flex conduit length is not set as a BOM unit. So we're going through this. Again, this is attached to the webinar, and it's able for you guys to pick up and download. So we're doing quite a number of things. There's some things in here like shield wire diameter, color, and eye properties weren't set. It is now set now. That's a good one. Templates, we're setting it up so when you install, you have default templates. When I talk about default templates, they are the templates with home in the right, in this position, and the Z vertical already set, so you don't have to do your own custom items in that. You can always add to those templates. You can always add to whatever you want. They will be found in your normal template locations. Editing the round bus changes. So there's a number of things. We've gone through the trench folder paths and the other folder paths so that this tool here is working much better now. I'm liking what I'm seeing in here, and we're quite happy with that. So go ahead read through here, and you can feed me next week on some comments if you have, or something specific. But this is what we're working on now. So with that, I'm going to talk a little bit about the menus. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to close this. And we're going to go into looking at menus. What I have is a number of people I've worked with aren't always seeing all the tools that we can do here. In my training, I do set up a number of tools that I train people on a number of tools that other people aren't taking the training and they don't know it's available. So I'm always surprised when I do some support and issues come up, and I've worked with someone recently and they didn't realize what some of the things we can do. My last webinar, we spoke about the cable fittings, putting these cable fittings in here and customizing the SDS menu, or configuring the SDS menu. So that's what we talked about last time, and I'm going to bring up my Inventor again and bring up an assembly. So I'm going to bring up my standard assembly that is built. Again, this is all going to be recorded. There might be 2 recordings or just 1 recording, but they will be posted on YouTube. So here's my so when you come into here, this is what we talked about in the last meeting, was how to place these in, a good way to do it, and that was posted on the on the YouTube. So today I'm going to talk a little bit more in this area, the BOM area. This is the bare cable, control cable, and conduit BOM info. And what we want to do is look at what we have in here and the information in here. And what I had was at least twice in the last 2 weeks, people not knowing that you can add iProperties in here. There's a lot of tools in here. There's a lot of little bits of information in here, but we can add custom iProperties. So I can add tab 1, or let's call it column A. I'm going to add column B too. And done. So I just added 2 custom iProperties to this database, but I don't see them. So what we need to do is come up here, access another page, and you can see column A and column B have been added. When a bare cable is made, or any of the items in here, because that column A is across the entire group, all A and B, and you can add your iProperties to that. And these are custom iProperties, so they will show up in the part as a custom iProperty. So you can add all that information in here. So we have column A and column B inside there. So what we want to do too is be able to, well, how do we get all our data in here? And one thing that I talk about in my training, and I'm just going to bring it up here because I'm so surprised by some people not trying different things and such. I'm come up here and open up my my Excel page here. So here's my Excel page, and what I do, I've set up an Excel template that I put all my items in here. And the idea behind this is that you can take this and you can PDF it or store it as a company document so that other people can reference what are the availability, what items are available for you to use in your SDS software. I've done this in the past where I put the data in here like this, and it's surprising how many people want that data. It could be purchasing wants that data to confirm what they're purchasing. There could be other engineering disciplines that want that information. So I'd like to be able to do this type of thing. So if you set it up, we can put it in. So here's my big bare cable thing. I got column A, column B. I've added in here on the end. Whatever information I want in here, I'm able to do. Now you're going, well, what good is that? Because how do I get that in here? What we want to do is be able to easily put information from one to the other. So if we're in this world here, and I want to get some information into here, so let's come into here, and let's say I want to add a bunch of information here. So I can come in here, and I can copy right from here, come into here, and I can paste it in. And I can save those changes. So that is, I'm able to copy it in. But I want the data out. If I want the data out, I can take this, copy, and I'm hitting Control-C and Control-V to copy and paste. And I can put that information in here. So that's how we can get the information back and forth. Once in here, you have the ability of all the tools that Excel has to put information in here. So you can see where I don't have column A and column B set here. So let's go back up here, and you can see I got test items in column A and column B. So I can come in here and grab those iProperties and copy them out, and in here I can put those iProperties in. So now I have those iProperties in. Now I grabbed more than what I needed, but they're in here. So we have those columns A and column B in there. So let's copy and paste that back in. So I can see that I have it down to Popinjay. So what did I have down here? Mockingbird. So let's not take that whole column. Let's take it down to Popinjay. So let's take the column from here and paste it in. So this is going to look a lot nicer now. Now I'm skipping the first one because I had the test cable in there. And there we go. Now we're even up and ready to go. If you need to delete a row, you hit delete on your keypad, and you can delete a row. This is being worked on, and the new version, it will be updated again. So we went down to Popinjay. My copy and paste should still be in there. And away we go. So we have our items in here. So you can cut and paste and bring them from one point to the other point. The other item in here is that when we're in Inventor and we have our iProperties in Inventor, if I want another number to be the same as another number, I can go equals, let's say part number. This is normal Inventor practice, and some people don't know it or not, but I can put a function in here, and that function is with the greater than and less than brackets and whatever item I want. So if I wanted to, in here, when we come back in here, I can say, instead of test1, I can say this equals, and I can only do iProperties, so we got to look at what iProperties are here. So the iProperties are in here are title, description, part number, stock number. These are the 4 iProperties, standard iProperties that Inventor uses. So I can have this as, this equals part number. So when I bring it in as a custom iProperty, it's going to equal part number, but it can also put in column B. So what happens then is when I can combine iProperties in here, I can combine a part number and a description if I wanted to. Instead of column B, I could say that is a description or whatever I want. I can use that tool. So this is the information gets placed into Inventor, and it would come up in here. So we would have something, if if I come in here and go, this one equals this, and if I put another bracket in here, description, I have part number in a description combined, and that's what this would do too. This would combine these two with a comma in between. If I put text in between, I can put a colon in between, whatever I need to do to get my pieces together. So that's really all I wanted to talk about today. I am open for questions. I'll be online till 1 o'clock, and we can talk further about whether it's in the 7.1 update or in the content editor, able to bring things in here too. I also want to mention that that this information can be copied out as well. So if I take here, copy this out, and I come into my fittings, let's say sheet 2, I'm going to bring this into here. I can bring my fitting information in here. Now, I can't go the other way because this includes having to select and embed that file in the database if I were to do that, but at least I can copy the information out and know what fittings I have in here and what group I have in here. So I can always add titles up here, group, whatever names they are, group, category, and such as that. I can add those titles in here, and I can save it as an Excel template and use it and update it. So for the guys who are using a number of databases that for different companies or for whatever project they're on, they can use this type of thing and make it into a PDF and have it a real document that people can use and reference. So with that, I'd like to leave it for questions. If you guys want to bring up some questions, I'll look at them and we can go over them. So what happened to my questions? So I got a couple questions here, and I'm having trouble seeing them suddenly. How does it know which hole geometry to constrain to? It seems like it could be some angle off. Well, you're talking about placing the fittings. So if we come into placing the fittings, let's come back into placing the fittings. It is looking at that bolt circle. It's looking for a location of that bolt circle on here. So it's looking for the center of the holes, or the center of the holes, the center of the radius of that arc, or center of the holes here, and it's working it out. So it is working. If you only put your insulator on 2 holes, it will also attach to a 2-hole thing as long as it's seeing the spacing between the holes at the right size. Got another question here. If the first question that I have, with the new feature mating the bolt circle, are you going to be able to rotate the fitting around the bolt circle similar to rotate a fitting on a 4-hole pad? That's a good question, and I'm trying to work that out. I was talking with the programmer, Dan, about that type of thing, and it would be nice to have, definitely. So if I come in here and I place this guy in here, let's see what happens. So that's attached. If I come to rotate fitting, It is rotating it. It's hard to see. So if I come up here, let's show a work plane. Visibility. So let's rotate that fitting. And you can see it's rotating. So that's a great question because I had an answer. Okay, see what other questions I have. With the new feature mating, okay, are there any other questions? I only have the one question showing here. All right, if there's no other questions, I'm going to end it today. Oh my gosh, here we go. All right, I'm seeing the questions all now. That's great. Sorry about the confusion here. You could show people how to handle fittings that do double duty. That was in the first webinar in July. If you watch the video, it will show you how to handle fittings that do double duty. With the new feature mating bolt circles, are you going to be able to rotate? Okay, Josh, I got you that one. Will the dynamically created cable files be saved to the subfolder of the folder in which the assembly is saved? Will the dynamically created cable files be saved to a subfolder of the folder into which the assembly is saved? Yes, we're going completely through that folder setting and we're troubleshooting it and figuring it out. It is working quite well from what I see so far. We can do a subfolder of a subfolder. So I like that aspect as well. So we come up into fittings. We're going to be able to put not only conduit, but maybe we want to put slash, I don't know, something, and it will come in to and we'll build those that nested folder structure if you wish. Also, the default will work. You come into default. This is actually my favorite, is to use default, and that will put it in the parent assembly that you're attaching it to. Will the dynamically created cable files be saved to a subfolder? Okay, everybody wants that. All right, I had a couple questions on the folders. Will the dynamically created cable be saved? What is the potential for the below-grade cable tool to do something like the HV underground cable? Below-grade cable, HV underground cable. What is the potential for the below-grade cable tool to do something like HV underground cable? It's funny how that same question's in more than once. The below-grade cable tool allows us to place a cable inside the conduit. HV underground cable. Well, Stephen Katz, I am not sure what you're asking there. If you want to ask that question again, we can go with that. I'm going to skip that and I'll look for the bottom. What is the potential? Yeah, it's the same question again. So we can add default to my folder in the new 7.1 version. Yes, Michael. Insulators typically have two bolt hole planes, top and bottom. How does SDS determine which is appropriate? What if you're installing an underhung insulator? Is there a way to flip and not rotate the insulator? Well, we're hitting the face, so let's look at what happens there. That's a good question there too. So let's grab this guy again. I'm going to copy him and paste. So I'm going to grab this guy, and we're going to place this one on. So we're going to see if this one, select a face. So I'm going to hit the underneath. I'm going to hit this face, and there it is. So I'm able to place it underneath as well. Then the question is, well, what about the other end? Well, I can still come in here and grab this guy and say I want that to this face, right? or I want, where's copy, paste, or I want to add that to this face. So we're able to do it because we're picking faces on it, and it's able to do it in that manner. In the SDS content editor, you can sort the fittings, controlling the order they appear in Inventor. Say if you want to have the fittings sort by build number, so they show in a numerical order, and have to add additional ones later on. So we're talking about fittings in the content editor. So let's come over to the fittings in the content editor. And I believe you're asking if you can sort this. No, it's not sorting this. It is in the format that you place it in. So you'll have to plan ahead in your organization of this. I have found that myself, but again, you can copy that information out, put it into Excel. What the heck is that? You can put it into Excel, sort it in here, and then you can follow it and manually place your fittings in after you sort it out. So if you do some sort of planning like that, that's what you need to do right now. But I might add that to a list, sort fittings. The cable, remember when we were placing cable, we can sort how the cable is found in the above grades tool settings. So I want to remind everybody that we can sort cable list as well. How does it know which hole geometry to constrain to? It seems like it could be some angle off. I think we had that question already, but it could be the way this question tool works. It's just looking at the arrangement of the holes. So it's going to put it on. I'm not sure if it needs to see what hole it is. Can you add the sort to the wish list? Well, that's Josh. Yeah, I'm going to put that on my notes. Sort fitting list. But if you do plan ahead, you don't need to sort. Okay, it looks like the last question I have right now is, can the round fittings be rotated after being placed like the NEMA pad fittings? Yes, that's what I showed earlier. We can rotate those fittings. So I can take that and rotate that fitting. All right. So I don't see any other questions. If anybody wants to ask more, oh, there's another question. Can the round fittings, no, where's that last question? I thought I saw a new question come in. Sorry if this is kind of confusing because I'm not sure with this tool how it's working. You did underhung the insulator, but now the sheds are upside down. Oh, I see. Yeah, I can see that. So you'd want to be able to put the sheds in the right direction for both of them. Of course you do. All right, that's a good note. Thank you for showing this. This is excellent. I love that type of feedback. So maybe we can pick it by face. If we did something that we picked a face to a face, which face we want to attach to. That might be a simple correction. Thanks, Joe. Are the sheds in the right orientation on the underhug? Well, that's, I guess several people want to know more about that. How do you make sure the insulator doesn't flip when underhung? Well, we're going to have to pick it by a face, and that's what we're going to have to do. So if we did it instead of picking the part, right, instead of going like this and pick the part and then a face to mate to, why don't we just pick this face to that face? You know what I mean? I think that would work nice, and then we could just do it that way, and we don't need a even a work plane. But maybe we might still need a work plane for the software to recognize the holes instead of the face, but we'll see what we can do with Dan. All right. Do we have more questions? In the handout, okay, Travis. In the handout under the bug fixes, it states that there is, in this release, the ground grid can be placed on a sketch plane. Does that mean that the sketch plane can be an angle plane? Excellent, Travis. I remember talking with you almost a year ago, I think, about being able to do that and having to manually rotate that plane. I can imagine it would work. Again, I'm in testing with it, and we're having some issues with it, and we're going back and forth on some of the fixes for that. But I would like that as well, so that would be part of my questioning for that. Thanks, Travis. Does the rigid bus adapt if structure and fittings were to relocate in the yard? Yes. When we do an update, so if we were coming in here and going to update in the location of that bus, it should be updating when we do the update run tool, right? So that's normal function for it. So it should be operating that way, Justin. Are you not seeing that? Oh, just new to the software. Okay, yeah, it's supposed to. So when you want to update a run, whether it's a bus or cable, there's update run for the bus, and there's an update cable too as well, and there's update all cables. So the whole idea behind the updates is if there's elevation changes or spacing changes, and you don't want to rerun that. And the idea is that it will change the existing part and not create a new part. What about adding a, wow, I've got a whole bunch now. Good. Okay, file names. What about adding a prefix for the cable file names? Well, the cables, when they come in now, they're just named cable. So I'm not sure what you're asking there. If you want a prefix to a file name. So let's say you got a contract and you want that cable name named differently. I see. Okay, I can picture that now. So if I got this guy here open, right, and it's just called bare cable, I'm going to have thousands of things called bare cable. But this number here is basically a date code, a timestamp. So you could identify it by timestamp, but I can understand the want for a prefix. Myself, I can understand that perfectly. So I'll add that to the list. Prefix. I'm not saying these will be done, especially for the next update, but they're good comments. I had some software some years ago that you would put a general contract number and it would always add that contract number to every part. Okay, Stephen. Could a tool be set up to use 3D sketch with the grounding and not just use 2D sketch plane? We do have that ability for 3D sketch planes for, here, let's open up. And maybe we can cheat by playing around with the conduit. But in here, if you look on this guy here, this piece of conduit here is on a 3D sketch plane. And that's one of the, if you come into below grade tools and you got add 3D conduit. So this tool here, you can create a 3D plane. If you look what I've done here, and this is part of what I show for demo purposes, is this piece of conduit here. So let's grab that guy here. And that's on a 3D plane. You can see how it's angled up. As well, it's bent around here and it's following that 3D sketch curve. So I was playing with it just to show that this is a tool that can be done. And then what happens here when you're coming out of the conduit, it comes out, you want to come out as a right angle. So it's actually angled. And in real life, it would be a little bit angled coming out. And I guess the guy would maybe bend the conduit a little bit. So could you be set up to use 3D sketch with the grounding and not just the 2D sketch plane? So I will note that. I'm not sure if that's a real big push for that, but I'd like to know more about an example for that. So if you want to email me an example on where you'd use 3D sketch. I can't see it working offhand with the grounding tool, but I would probably try and cheat and make a custom conduit to look like a grounding wire, but that's not the best way, right? All right, I'm going to the next question. Say a job name, underline cable. Yeah, well, I think we talked about that. So if we wanted to add a prefix to the cable. So I would like to do that. I think that's a decent one, but we wouldn't want to just do it with the cable. We'd want to do it with the bus. We'd want to do it with all the generated parts. All right. So I'm looking for more questions. I'm not seeing any, so I think we're finished. But I'll stay online for a little bit here. Thanks for the questions, guys. I think that's the best part of these webinars are the questions. So we'll go from there. Okay, so we hope to have the 7.1 released in early September, and we're going through it now. Again, we're all very busy. There's a lot of business out there for us, and oh, Stephen came back with a 100-word question here. Let's see. My question is about whether the below-grade cable tool could create a cable based on something more complex than a simple circle, such as a complexity of layers of a HV. Oh, I see. Currently, I believe the tool can only do a single material simple geometry. A second question is, you could demonstrate adding a new below-grade cable with a larger diameter and a non-metallic material. I've not been able to get this to work. Below-grade cable, I don't understand why that would be difficult. A second question, if you could demonstrate adding a new below-grade cable with a larger diameter and non-metallic material. Is there a tutorial for using the conduit? William, yeah, if you have access to substationdesignsuite.com and you have access to online training, there's a tutorial for that. There's also in the help files, there's some, there's demos in the help. So I'm going to go back into that. And Stephen, I'll get back to you on that other question in a moment. I'm just going to remind people of the online help, because if there's beginners out here, that these webinars, my intention for the webinars is go a little bit beyond training. But if someone's new, it's worthwhile. So if you come into the help files, SD7 help files, there are items in here so that if you wanted to look at the conduit, there's a conduit demo here that you can watch. And you can watch that demo, and that would help you, as well as there's instructions in here too. So it talks about the instructions here too. Now, back to Stephen's question, a second question, if you could demonstrate adding a below-grade cable with a larger diameter and well, below-grade cable is in the tool here. So let's come into the tool. And we come in here and look at below-grade cable, right? So the size of the diameter is all set here, as far as the material is selected here. So you could tell it whatever material you want. If you look at the material selections, these are the default selections that SDS is looking at, and this is from a list, an Inventor out-of-the-box list of material availability. If you have custom material and you have it saved in the part, in the root part that SDS uses, you should be able to select a different material, especially if it's in your template part as well as in your automated part that is built in here. You come up here and grab your cable spacer, make sure that material is in this cable spacer, and make sure that it's in the templates. You should be able to get material that is outside of this. So if you need a different diameter, add it to here and put it in here. Then in Inventor, when you want to add that below-grade cable, you can look at cable, this tab here, and then you can grab whatever different below-grade cables you want. It doesn't show that big list that I have in there because I haven't saved and reopened Inventor yet. I hope that answers your question, Steve. As far as the other question about complex shapes for your cables, for the below-grade cables, I don't see that coming right now, but if there's more of a push for that, we need more people asking for that. All right. So I'm not seeing any other questions, but I like the questions. I plan to have a seminar every month, and the next month's seminar, I'm very busy in the beginning of the month, so it might be later in the month like this one is too. So that's the biggest issue for me, is how busy I am. Okay, we're going to end the webinar. I have still 13 people online if you guys want to end or have more questions. Oh, is there a way for cables to know what destination path to take without setting a default location? Well, when we're picking our cables, we got to go through work points. So when we're working with cables and we want a default location, if you take the training, we do talk a little bit about that. But typically what you would do is use pick points to create cable, or pick fittings to add cable. So you could create a fitting to pass through. So if you look at this item here, right? If you look at how this cable's run here. So let's make sure I'm on that. So this cable here is run from this fitting through this fitting into here. So I'm fixing the path by using the tool pick fittings to add cable. So if I pick these 3 fittings that go through, now you remember that we have the document, automation requirements document, which is downloadable from the help on the website, and you come through here and you'll understand what geometry you need to add. But if you don't have a center point cable fitting like this, what I typically do, I will add a tool of work points, and you can see what this tool is here. This is just a phantom part, so it doesn't show up in the bill of material, and I add some work points to that for what I want the cable to pass through. And I will place that in my island assembly. So if you take the training, we talk about island assemblies and being able to do stuff like that. It seems like the cable used to save in the top level folder of the assembly that the cable was ran in rather than the destination path manually. If that, oh, all right, well, that's back to the folder issue that we talked about earlier. So in the settings for the folders, so in substation design settings, and we come into the folders, we can identify what path we want that to be saved in. So I misread your other question about paths by thinking it was the path of the cable and not path of the file. So this should be able to tell you. So if you put it to default, it will save it in its parent assembly folder, and that's my favorite. Other people want it all into one cables folder as well. I hope that got it for you, Justin. All right. Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions. All right, some people are leaving. I'll stay on if another question comes up. All right. And thank you, everyone, for coming to it. And again, it will be put on YouTube, either the SDS Consortium YouTube and the SBS business site.